Welcome to Pie Guys Pick'em. It's week 4 of the NFL season. We're starting to see things clearer. We're starting to figure out who's good, who's bad, who's mediocre. I've hit. I did have a play last night. I didn't give it out. It's been a little ill here, a bit under the weather. I feel like last year, same time I was under the weather week 4, and we hit that Chicago Bears bet. That was like the easiest bet of the year. So hopefully we have another one this week. Even though I'm a little might be a little nasally in my speech, we're gonna get through it. We got some water, we got some Kleenex. We're gonna get going. So yeah, nice winner with the best bet, Panthers, and they even cashed the money line. No doubt winner. Was it the right side? Maybe not, but I think it was the right side. Atlanta laying 5.5 was a joke, as I mentioned on the show. But let's get into it. I don't want to waste too much of my breath on last week. We start in Dublin, Ireland, where the Steelers are, I guess, hosting. So, or will be playing host here to the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings 2.5-point neutral site favorites. The total 40.5 or 41. The Vikings dominated the Bengals and Jake Browning. It was a bad bet by me. I mean, it was smash and grab. Carson Wentz, 2 touchdowns, 2 defensive touchdowns by Isaiah Rodgers. But more importantly, Carson Wentz didn't turn the ball over. No picks. But the Vikings did have over 100 yards in penalties. So that's a little bit of a concern going forward. That game was a blowout, but you can't have 100 yards of penalties in a closer, tighter game. Christian Darrisaw returned, made all the difference last week. He was very, very good, kept Wentz upright. Now, there are a few injuries on the front seven. I didn't look at the updated injury report. I'll pull that up in a minute. But concerns, and I want to see if Mr. Andrew Van Ginkel is in, because obviously he has been very, very good. I think Hargrave is out for the Vikings. See if they can get some pass rush here. But Van Ginkel's out again. It looks like Hargrave is going to play. So I thought it was going to be Van Ginkel playing and Hargrave. Hargrave is in. Van Ginkel is out. Van Ginkel, I think, is a little bit better than Hargrave. The Vikings traveled late to Dublin on Thursday night, but the NFL decides the Steelers wanted to travel to Dublin earlier in the week, which is understandable. They have an older quarterback, an older team. It takes longer to get acclimated to the Irish time zone there, but the NFL wouldn't let them travel early. They said you got to travel at the same time as the Vikings. I disagree with that completely. First of all, it's a great gambling edge. The team who travels gets to Dublin or gets overseas earlier. We've seen that come in time and time again. But I think that the way the NFL just wouldn't let them travel is ridiculous. If I was a player and I got injured in this game, I would consider taking action through the NFL Player Association. I seriously think this is a risk to older players who need time to acclimate, and the NFL putting their nose, in that, like when a team travels, like that should be the team's decision, not the NFL's decision. So, I'm highly against this. I think this is ridiculous. But anyways, that's what happened. The Steelers, they were gifted a win by the Patriots. 5 turnovers, 4 fumbles. 2 of them by Ramondre Stevenson. Now he's on the bench. It was a fraudulent win. I mean, New England outgained the Steelers 364 to 203 yards. The Steelers only had 4.1 yards per play to New England's 5.2 yards per play. Now, there is the angle, of course, that you have Rodgers, who was allegedly interested in playing for the Vikings. Now he's facing them. It's a standalone game, 9:30 Eastern to 6:30 Pacific. I think that's what 2:30 Greenwich Mean Time. So I lean to the Vikings, but Carson Wentz, that game was a blowout. I don't trust him. So I'm going to pass here. But Johnny's prop report later in the show, we'll have some action for early morning football on Sunday. Don't worry, I'll give you some action. As we move along to the 1 p.m. slate, Los Angeles Chargers, New York Giants, 6.5-point home dogs. The total 43.5, 44. The Russell Wilson era is over in New York after 3 games, which is kind of shocking. The Chiefs and Steve Spagnuolo decided to defend the moon ball, and they couldn't do anything else in the passing game. I mean, it was awful. They scored 6 points, 22-6, back-to-back Sunday Night Football games ending 22-6, which is interesting. I think for the road team, both of them as well. So quite interesting there. Jackson Dart will be starting here. And, this could be a raucous crowd here in New Jersey with, they were calling for him last week for him to get the ball. It was a disgrace, the offense. I don't blame it. And, Andrew Thomas is back. Andrew Thomas is likely to play here. So, the kid's got some decent protection, at least on one of his blind side or one of his tackles. I think it's his blind side. The Giants, they were awful against the Chiefs. The rest of them, Cam Scatterbo looked pretty good, and he's got to because I don't think Tyrone Tracy's going to play. Malik Neighbors, though, popped up on the injury report. So I didn't look into it today. I meant to, but I was busy with the other games. Okay, he's good. He's going to play. All right, Malik Neighbors is in. Theo Johnson got hurt during the game. I think he's also going to play. He was limited the other day, but he's a player that a lot of sharps have had their eye on for a while now since he's been drafted by the Giants. Giants. And obviously I mentioned Andrew Jackson's back. All right. What's it? Andrew Thomas? I don't know why I wrote Andrew Jackson here. We're doing history here. But yeah, looks like Andrew Thomas is going to play. In terms of the Chargers, they were outgained 5.5 to 4.7 yards per play by the Broncos. But overall, they outgained the Broncos 376, 265. Broncos had a couple of turnovers. They had 29 first downs. The Broncos only had 9. They're now 3-0 at all of them divisional games. They've beaten every team in the division. We're only week 4. Now you got to go play a non-conference opponent who's 0-3 at 1 o'clock early start, starting a rookie quarterback. This is a terrible spot for the Chargers. I mean, just awful. The only thing is it's a rookie quarterback making his first start. So do you really want to take the Giants? Will Disley and Mekhi Becton are out, along with wide receiver depth, Darius Davis. I like the Giants here. I was waiting to see if Malik Neighbors is in, but this is 0-3 team. They're at home. The other team's 3-0 in division. Now they're going to a non-conference opponent. 1 o'clock start. I can see the Chargers coming out flat here, but probably just a half or 2/3 of a unit here. Now, it's not going to be a full stake on the Giants because it is a rookie quarterback making his first start, but he's got Neighbors, he's got Thomas. You have the element of surprise. The defense should be able to keep him, keep him at least in the game a little bit. And, and I forgot to mention Najee Harris out for the season for the Chargers. So, we thought he was out for the season 3 weeks ago. So, I don't know if that really makes too much of a difference, but something to keep an eye on. All right, let's take a sip. We will move along to Foxborough, Massachusetts. Yes, don't adjust your screen. The Patriots 5.5-point favorites. No, Tom Brady's not starting, but they are at home and they're facing the Carolina Panthers, who won 30-0 last week, cashing the best bet against the Falcons. On the scoreboard and the eye test, the Panthers dominated the Falcons. I mean, the Panthers made the Falcons look bad. But on the box score, the Falcons outgained them 5 to 4.1 yards per play. Falcons at 332 yards, so the Panthers 224 yards. But the Panthers made the defensive plays, stopping the Falcons on 4th down, 0-3 on 4th down for Atlanta. Bryce Young threw no picks. And, of course, the Panthers had, a pick 6. So they picked off Penix twice in that game. But, this isn't I like the Carolina Panthers last week. I thought the line was bad. I thought they were better. But now they're off a loss, and there's a lot of fat and happy quotes, and they have injuries. We know Robert Hunt's on IR, their star right guard. Now Xavier Legette out, McMillan questionable to play. Jatavian Sanders out, DJ Wanham out. I think Jones II's also. I like, some of these stalwart. Like some of the better players on the Panthers. Not going to be available for this game, and they're coming off a nice win in division, something the Carolina Panthers aren't used to doing. It's the second straight week on the road, and you got to go to Foxborough. It's a pretty good home field there. But on the other side, you want to lay 5.5 with a team that fumbled 4 times last week? Maybe. Stevenson will be riding the pine this week on the bench for the most part. Travion Henderson, the only running back not to fumble last week, will start as RB1. Christian Gonzalez is questionable. He didn't play last week. If he comes back and McMillan's banged up, like the Panthers are very thin at wide receiver. So, and interesting note, Patriots rookie Efton Chisholm III. People are calling for him to see some action, and rumors are he might see some action in this game, and they need some skill position players to make some plays. 5 sacks allowed, and their defense got none. New England dominated the box score, the yards per play, total yardage. They were turnovers, and they got the defense got none. 5 turnovers, and the defense couldn't force one. Vrabel, he's being more aggressive on 4th down. I'm not sold on this coaching staff yet. It's New England or pass. I don't know if I'm going to get there. I don't want Carolina. I know that for sure. Absolutely not. But 5.5. They don't want you to, like, the books don't want Patriot money. That's why it's number's 5.5. Because it's a little bit inflated. But I might get there. I mean, I might. I think the Patriots win this game by touchdown here. The Panthers are in a horrible spot. They have injuries everywhere, but we'll see if I get there. For now, it'll be a pass, but I might get there on the Patriots. I want to see if McMillan's out, especially if I can be paying attention to that, then I'll probably bet New England. I mean, Carolina doesn't have any depth at skill position. All right, Tampa Bay at home playing the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles 3.5-point road favorites. The total here 43.5, 44. I don't think I have. Maybe one total bet this week. The Bucks have escaped with 3 wins. 3 straight weeks, 3 wins. Are they going to have to pay the piper this week? I don't know. We'll see. They were, I think they were the right side against it, especially on the money line straight up. But that blocked field goal return for a touch. I mean, they were dominating that game. And then they almost lost, but they kept their composure, and this team has composure. Baker Mayfield, Todd Bowles, Mike Evans, veteran leadership on this team. Vita Vea, this is good leadership on the Buccaneers. Logan Hall and Christian Izien didn't practice Wednesday. I don't think they're going to play from what I remember. They outgained the Jets 5.4 yards per play to 4.2, but big concern here, 14 penalties for 124 yards for the Buccaneers. Wow. They got to clean that up. The Eagles side, pass rusher Nolan Smith Jr., he's on IR. The Eagles stole one on a blocked field goal, as Tampa, managed to hang on against the Rams, returning not only to win, but to cover the number, which is, the Rams backers last week deserved a better fate. Eagles were outgained 4.6 to 5.4 yards per play. They're down 26-7 in the third quarter. And then the offense quarter said, we can throw the ball for the first time this season. Instead of that, they were just running Saquon through 3 yards per carry. And that's something I want to note here. He's only averaging about 3 to 4 yards per carry, Saquon Barkley here, which is down from last year significantly. He had a lot of touches last year. Remember, they went all the way to the Super Bowl. He was the Offensive Player of the Year. He was their, he was their bell cow back. And we saw they already got Shipley involved early. Yes, it is a good-looking hat. We need the Jays to get a nice W here. Come on, Bieber. Um, um, Linebacker Campbell and Zach Bond didn't practice on Wednesday, along with Adoree Jackson at corner. I'm gonna see if I can update the Eagles injury report here. But regardless of that, like this Eagles team, I'm not feeling it right. Like we talked about it last week. They're playing the long game. Tampa's finding ways to win. It looks like everybody's going to play except Adoree Jackson. He's doubtful. Mike Evans is out. We already talked about that. And Christian, is it Logan Hall might play Godwin? Oh, geez. Godwin, Mayfield, and Worse are questionable. I didn't expect that. Those are three pretty big names. Well, I'll tell you what. If those three guys play, I'll take 3.5 with Tampa. I haven't bet it yet, thank goodness. But if Mayfield, Worse, and Godwin are in, I'm betting Tampa here. That Eagles on the road, laying more than 3 here, and their offense has been stagnant outside of when they had to throw the football. And Todd Bowles, I think if Tampa gets a nice lead, Todd Bowles is going to dial up some blitzes, I think, that are going to give Kurt some trouble. So I like Tampa here, but I'm going to wait. I don't want to bet Tampa Bay, and it's the back. I don't even know what the backup is in Tampa anymore. I think Kyle Trask is gone. I might have to look that up. So yeah, I want to see Baker. I want to see Worth. I want to see Godwin out there, and I'll bet Tampa. All right, we move along to Atlanta, who was shut out last week, and now they're laying 2.5 here to the Washington Commanders. I believe Jaden Daniels is out, but let me just double check. I'm like 90% that this line moved earlier in the week, and it didn't matter last week. I mean, the Raiders, Washington had 7.4 yards per play against the Raiders. But you have to remember, the Raiders were in the Widowmaker spot where the Raiders were coming off Monday, and Washington was coming off the Thursday night game. And JD out. Terry McLaurin's out too. And that's a big deal because Washington is thinner this year at wide receiver. De'Ami Brown was in Jacksonville. Remember how good he was in the playoffs. They sacked Geno Smith 5 times, 201 rushing yards. But yeah, the injury bug, as I mentioned, like look at these names. Noah Brown didn't practice. John Bates didn't practice. Percy Butler didn't practice. Trey Amos limited practice. Like it's a nasty injury report for the Commanders, and they are the oldest team in the NFL by a considerable margin. So, and you look at the other side. So, okay, yeah, they were out. They outgained the Panthers. They had 131 rushing yards. They only had 3 penalties, 23 yards. But they lost 30 zip. The Falcons, that is. Yeah, almost everybody's out there. Percy Butler is questionable. Croxy Merritt and Trey Amos are questionable. Like Washington's in a world of trouble here on the injury side. But yeah, 3 turnovers, including a pick 6 by the Falcons last week against the Carolina Panthers. 0 for 3 on 4th down, missed field goals, and I forgot to mention the Giants signed Younghoe Koo because Graham Gano has a groin injury, so you're stuck with Parker Romo now, who I think is significantly worse than Younghoe Koo. Now Raheem Morris is taking Raheem Morris. How he's still the coach of this team, I don't know, but they got to get rid of him as soon as the season over. Yeah, if I'm Arthur Blank or his family, get that guy out of here. I mean, he's been off. Now he's taking shots at Kirk Cousins to defend his quarterback. Why Kirk Cousins? Isn't he still on the team? Why are you taking shots at him? I don't understand this guy. He's on your team. Just nonsense. But and the offensive coordinator called the Panther game the comedy of errors, and it kind of was. I mean, you lose 3-0 Carolina Panthers. You got to make some errors. But I already bet the Falcons. But I got them on the money line. The news for a while. I mean, I saw Washington's injury report said, well, some of these guys are going to be out. And here's the angle that I really like. So the last 4 teams to get shut out in September. The season's still early. to get shut out. 3 of the last 4 have won. These aren't good teams. This is the 23 Giants, the 22 Colts, the 21 Jets, and the 21 Dolphins. All pretty, mediocre to bad teams. And the only exception to that was the Dolphins, and they lost in overtime. So every team was tied or won at the end of regulation, and I believe a lot of them won by 3 points. So I give out Atlanta -2 here. I mean, this is the you respond when you get shut out, and the other team's injured. They're missing their best, they're missing their number 1 quarterback, their best wide receiver. They got a whole laundry list of injuries. They got a ton of old guys, so we could get more. And you could because I was looking at the history here. I don't mind a little sprinkle on. Well, before the news that everybody's up for watching, I was going to consider sprinkling a game to go to overtime. But if you really want to put a couple bucks on that, I mean, the response to the shutouts, a couple of them have gone to overtime. But those were worse teams than the Falcons. The Falcons, like the offense coordinator said, was a comedy of errors. They made stupid plays. They were better than Carolina, but Carolina was better on that day significantly. All right, we move along. Cleveland Browns, Detroit Lions. Lions 9.5, 10-point favorites. The total is 44.5. So the Browns are off of a massive upset. That's we have these bad teams off an upset. We talked about Carolina. You really want to back them again the next week. Can they handle it winning? But the Browns are a more veteran squad than some of these other bad teams. They beat the Packers. They outgained them, the 3.9 to 3.8 yards per play. It wasn't a fraudulent victory. This defense is for real. They shut down the Ravens run game 2 weeks ago. They shut down the Packers run game last week. Josh Jacobs had 30 yards on 16 carries. I mean, the Packers can get anything going on the ground. And the Packers were a little bit flat. But 8 penalties, for the Browns. There's still things to clean up. The Packers had 220 yards total. They sacked Jordan Love 5 times. Great showing by the defensive line. And the kicker made kicks. A Cleveland kicker making a clutch kick at the end of the game. We haven't seen that in who knows how long. I mean, this team's needed a kicker badly for a while. Meanwhile, the Lions are coming off a big win too, though. A big upset win in Baltimore, Monday Night Football. We were on the Lions last week, plus 4.5. Nice to see that one come home. They outgained Baltimore 6.5 to 5.9 yards per play. 224 rushing yards, and they ran all over the Baltimore Ravens. The O-line allowed 0 sacks. They sacked Lamar Jackson 7 times. Last time he's been sacked like more than twice. I feel like that guy's always escaping. They did have 8 penalties as well, but didn't turn the ball over. The offensive. There's a little bit of back and forth shit talking here. The offensive coordinator saying that the Browns run defense hasn't seen rushing attack like the Lions. We know the Browns like to talk crap. We talked about Grant Delpit a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you want to be poking this Cleveland defense. These guys are monsters. This offensive coordinator, you're not on the field. I would shut up if I were you. Dan Campbell, trying to calm things down, saying, this is Cleveland's very good defense. We still got to keep our toes. And the Lions are spot proof. I stopped a couple of years ago. You can't make a bet on a Lions game saying the Lions are in a bad spot, because with Dan Campbell, he gets these guys up no matter what. So this is a pass for me. A lot of talking, but these are fun teams. My Lions. I think this is going to be a decent game, at least for the first half. So no action. I'm not laying 10 against a defense like Cleveland. I know I did it a couple weeks ago, but there was a little bit of shit talking there too. But I'm not betting against Detroit right now. They look like they might be the Lions of old, and they could be the best team in the league. We move along. Oh God! I mean, from a game that I think might be good to a game that I think might be pretty awful. Titans, Texans. 0-3, 7.5 point favorites. The total is somewhere between 38.5, 39.5. There's a little bit of variance here. So if you like the over, find a 38.5. If you like the under, find a 39.5. Get the best of the number. The Titans look like the worst team in the league. They're playing like the worst team in the league. They're being coached terribly. Brian Callahan probably going to get fired. Brian Callahan might get fired before Mike McDaniel. This guy looks horrible. He week 1 we talked about how You have a rookie quarterback making his first start. You're not running the ball enough. Like make him feel comfortable. That was fairly awful. Then you go. Now you can't get Ridley the ball at all. Your star wide receiver. I mean, at some point, you got to get him the ball. He's been not targeted enough, in my opinion. And they've covered, depending on what number you got, 3 or 4 games in the last 20, going back to last year. So I ain't betting the Tennessee Titans. I can tell you that right now. No chance. 8 penalties, 68 yards for them last week. They got stomped by the Colts. I mean, it wasn't close. The Colts, annihilated them. Excuse me. I'm going to take a sip. All right. Sorry about that. So the Texans are 0-3 straight up, 0-3 against the spread, and they're laying 7 points. That's how bad the Titans are. The market has the Titans. I mean, the offense is inept. Their offensive line is horrid. I mean, the Titans' offensive line is horrid, too. The difference is Houston's a good defensive line. They're probably going to wreak havoc on the Titans' offensive line. They committed 3 turnovers last week. They outgained the Jags, 4.6 to 4.4 yards per play. It was a fairly even game, but, you're turning the ball over in a fairly even game, and you're going to lose. Stingley, I think Derek Stingley is going to be out, but I mean, if they're not going to throw the ball to Ridley, does it really matter? Yeah, I can't lay 7. I can't lay 7 with Houston here, but I don't want to take the. I'm not betting Tennessee. And you could look at an under here. Under's an interesting way to look at it here, but I worry that with these offensive lines, there's going to be turnovers and short fields, and somebody's going to punch some. This feels like it could end up going over because of nonsense and tomfoolery. Like that's what this kind of feels like. So I'm staying off the under. All right, one more 1:00 game here. New Orleans Saints, Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills, 15.5-point home favorites. The total is 48, give or take half a point. The Saints got bum rushed early in that game against Seattle. I mean, it was, I had the Saints, but like the Seattle just pounced on them, just scored right away and said, yeah, we're just going to put this game to bed and we're going to move on to Arizona. And it, maybe we should have, I should have taken into account that, Seattle was playing on Thursday night and they might just want to, bum rush these guys. And they did. But, Chase Young's still up, but reinforcements coming back. Trevor Penning and Talise Fuaga. Looks like they're going to return to play the Bills here on the offensive line. So give Rattler a little bit more time. Kamara's rumored in trade talks with the Vikings. They had 11 penalties last week with the backup offensive lineman. So hopefully they can clean that up with the starters returning. Look at the Bills. I mean, they handled their business in Miami, but Miami kind of gave them a better fight than what I thought. Matt Milano and Ed Oliver are out on the defense, linebacker and defensive tackle, respectively. Spencer Brown, tackle, and defensive edge AJ Epinesa are questionable. So, this this kind of feels like the game where Buffalo takes an early lead, maybe 10, 14, and that's it. Like they're not going to, they don't want anyone to get hurt. You know what I mean? Like you're going to beat the Saints. You could come out slow. You come with the most vanilla game plan. And if you need to turn it on, you can turn it on. But I kind of feel like this is a sleepy spot for Buffalo. We saw what happened with Green Bay last week coming off the extra rest when you're playing a bad team or a team expected to be bad. And they lost outright. So I like the Saints last week and they got blown out. They had injury issues and it just, like they got blown out early, right? So I'm going to come back with them. I'm taking the 15.5. It's a lot of points, and I know Buffalo's known to run up the score, but I don't feel like that's going to be the focus here. It's a long season. Their schedule is not that hard. They got to get in, get W's, and get out without anybody getting hurt. Josh Allen's unlikely to run the football here, so give me the Saints here. I think this game is going to be within 2 touchdowns here. It's just a lot of points and non-conference opponent. I mean, like I said, Buffalo can win by 40 if they want to, probably, but I think the Saints offense can score a little bit here. And how many points do we need? 17. We can get 17. We probably cover. So give me Rattler to get 17 here and get the cover here. All right, we're moving on. 4 o'clock games. We're moving good pace here. Indianapolis Colts, Los Angeles Rams. Rams 3.5-point home favorites. The total 49.5. Now the Rams, they let one get away. We talked about it against Philadelphia. Blocked field goal, return for a touchdown. Outgained Philly. 5.4 to 4.6 yards per play. Outrushed them 160 to 86. Outrushed the rushing Kings, the Philadelphia Eagles. Sorry about that. Very impressive. Very impressive. Rob Havenstein didn't practice Thursday. He's questionable. Steve Avila was limited in practice. He's questionable. Both of them offensive linemen. Rob Havenstein, the starting right tackle. Something to pay attention to. You take a look at the Devontae Adams injury. McVay says he's going to play. McVay's a liar. You know, he's Shanahan, McVay. They're all liars. So I don't know if he's going to play yet. Keep an eye on that. And Stafford, you know, stuff happens. He's not too worried. They have good leadership on the Rams. So that loss to the Eagles shouldn't hurt them too much going forward. Meanwhile, the Colts, you know, they had nearly 7 yards per play against the Titans, but it's the Titans, so that's not really saying much. You know, Daniel Jones has been great. You know, they're 3-0. They look like the best offensive league. Now they've played, you know, one bad team, one dysfunctional team, and the Broncos, who I don't know, the mediocre maybe right now. Right now, anyways. But they're only 2 of 8 on third down. But they were pretty good on fourth down. And they finally punted. They finally used their punter. Their punter has made 1 punt in 3 games. Pretty good workload. I could do that. I could live with that workload. Get some nice money. Punt once every 3 games. He's living the good life. Alec Pierce ruled out. Something to keep an eye. And then we have tackle Braden Smith. He's got a heel injury. He's questionable. And then Kenny Moore, their cornerback, is out, and that's a big one. Because if Devontae Adams is in now, I think the Rams can run up the score here on the Colts a little bit. Mike Tomlin, something I heard earlier this week is that Mike Tomlin was talking about how they were playing the Colts last year. They're like, oh yeah, make sure Richardson stays in the game. Flacco is a bigger threat. And he was probably right because Richardson is not starting and Flacco is on a different team even. So, yeah. It's bet on versus bet on. I mean, it's the Colts, this Daniel Jones rejuvenations, Shane Steichen, Jonathan Taylor, they're figuring it out. Good offensive line. But, the Rams are also bet on, in my opinion. They're coming off that rough loss, and I think they want to respond here. I lean Los Angeles, but I don't want to bet against the Colts. The team that hot. Just come in here and play well, and I think there's better spots to attack. So pass for me. All right, Jacksonville, San Francisco. The Jaguars are now 3.5 point. It was 3 just about an hour or so ago. Now it's 3.5 because Brock Purdy is back, according to Shanahan. But again, he's a liar too. So I'll see it when I believe it. I'll believe it when I see it. The Niners are 3-0 despite tons of injuries. But they did outgained the Cardinals 5.7 to 4.1 yards per play. Still need a last-minute field goal to win after the Cardinals scored a safety on an offensive holding penalty in the end zone. Mac Jones has been great. 284, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Backup quarterback. My backup quarterback do that all day, every day. And I'd be happy with that. McCaffrey looks good, low key. Not known to me. People are talking about him. Everyone's talking about Jonathan Taylor. Everyone's talking about. Who else? James Cook, Jahmyr Gibbs, and low key McCaffrey's been pretty good. Juwan Jennings looks like he's going to remain out. He didn't practice Wednesday or Thursday. And Nick Bosa, of course, is out for the season. On the other side, though, I mean, the Jags were a little bit lucky. We talked about it. Houston outgained them. And the Jaguars went 2 games in a row. I'm not. The offense hasn't been great. It's been, Trevor Lawrence has been average to bad, in my opinion. The defense has been pretty good. They forced 9 turnovers in 3 games. I think that's more than they had all of last year, if I remember correctly. And now there's this thing going on where Robert Saleh, the defensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers, he said that Liam Cohen, the coach for the Jaguars, the head coach, is good at sign stealing. So I thought that was very, very interesting. He's trying to stir the pot a little bit. He's saying he's stealing defensive signs. So maybe San Francisco's going to have some sort of plan against that and sort of stymie this Jags offense. I mean, it's not that hard to stymie this Jags offense right now. The numbers weren't great. The Jags defense is feeling good though, so it could be interesting. It's a pass for me. I don't want to lay chalk with San Francisco. They're finding ways to win, but to find a way to win by 4. I want the Jags. I have the Jags futures. I hope they win this game. I hope they figure it out a little bit. I want them to win the division to cash that ticket. They're live. The Colts are looking pretty good, but they own the Colts. So hopefully we can see a repeat of them beating the Colts when they play them head to head. All right, now we move to the big one. Baltimore Ravens, Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs 2.5. Oh, sorry, that's wrong. The Chiefs are 2.5 point underdogs here at home. No, see, that's too off. 2.5 point underdogs at home against the Baltimore Ravens. Both teams 1-2. Both teams, one team coming off a nice primetime win against the Giants, but I mean, it's the Giants. The other team, primetime loss against the Lions. Baltimore got bad news. Matabuke looks like he might be done for the season and maybe even for good. So, I hope he it's not too serious for him. Hopefully he's able to play football again. But thoughts go out to Matabuke there, whatever he's dealing with. The Lions ran for 224 yards. Goff was sacked 0 times. Jackson was sacked 8 times. Now they only had 3 penalties for 10 yards. That's a positive, but the Lions were 3 for 3 on 4th down. They couldn't get the Lions off the field. Henry fumbled again. 3 straight games. Derrick Henry's fumbled the football. We're having moose issues. And Lamar Jackson, 0-3 at Arrowhead. The defensive coordinator, Zach Orr, for the Ravens is being he's being criticized, and Kyle Hamilton is coming out to defend him. Some of his defensive players coming out to defend Zach Orr, but I don't know if it's the defense. I mean, Derrick Henry's fumbled the football 3 games. Both of them making mental errors, and they're not pounding, just like like they I don't know. It could be the defense. Like maybe it's the play calling. Like they don't look like they're bad, but the Lions made them look pretty bad. The Bills made them look pretty bad with 5 minutes to go 3 weeks ago, but. Excuse me, but the Chiefs, they're an elite team, or at least they were in that category. So, I don't know what's going to happen here. Like, is the defense going to be bad? Now, Ronnie Stanley and Kyle Van Noy look like they're going to play. Likely might play, but they're banged up. The 3 of them. Broderick Washington is also out, in addition to Matabuke, as well as the fullback Patrick Ricard. He's been out for a while. So, the Chiefs, they covered against the Giants, but Kelsey and Mahomes still look off. Kelsey's still getting criticized. Now, good news is that Xavier Worthy's back, and Jalen Royals. I think he's a rookie. So they get some wide receiver reinforcements, which they desperately need. Tyquan Thorne, he was great, but he's not wide receiver 1 material. And Chris Jones is like this team's got strong leadership. Baltimore, I have questions about their leadership, questions about sort of the mentality. This team's won Super Bowls. Andy Reid's been around. Mahomes is a good leader. Chris Jones is probably the heart of the team, and he's got Kelsey's back. He was defending his tight end there, so good for him. Defensive end Mike Dana, he's doubtful. And his backup, Ashton Gillott, is also questionable. So it might be a little light on the defensive line. But outside of that, and the suspension to Rashee Rice, Kansas City's completely healthy. So 0 turnovers against the Giants. I when I went into this game and looked at it, I thought, I'm going to bet Baltimore, to buy a bounce back spot. The Chiefs are, they're struggling, limping it around. But the headspace of Baltimore and the questions around the defensive coordinator and Derrick Henry fumbling the football. There's just this black cloud right now over Baltimore. And Kansas City's, they got the good news on the injury report. They're getting guys back. They're supporting each other. I'm on the Chiefs here. Chiefs at home as an underdog. I'm just playing the money line. I don't want 2.5. The Chiefs, if the Chiefs win close games. We know this. We've seen this last year with the likely tone line. They find ways to win these close games. I was concerned of the Chiefs going into the season. I said that, the Super Bowl hangover, but I'm more concerned about Baltimore. Baltimore's got head issues. They haven't won like the Chiefs have. It's another tough team. It's and you're in. They haven't played a divisional game, and we know how they played one. They beat the Browns. We know how the AFC North division can be. Anyone can beat anyone at any given time. So, it could be trouble here for the Ravens. So, give me the Chiefs on the money line here. I'm gonna take a shot here with the Chiefs. I kind of like where we're going. And from one big football game to, oh boy, what a game we have here. Las Vegas Raiders, Chicago Bears, Vegas 1-point home chalk. The total 47.5, 48. The Raiders took, another L, but they were the quote unquote widowmaker. We mentioned this earlier, where they were coming off the Monday game and they were playing Washington off the Thursday game. And Washington had 7.4 yards per play. Geno was sacked 5 times. It was a debacle. Okay, you get smoked like that by a backup quarterback. It's a debacle. And Chip Kelly. I mean, come on. I mean, I don't like. I know Eagles fans and who were complaining about Chip Kelly back in the day when he was on Philadelphia. When has this guy ever done anything good at the NFL level? Why do people keep hiring this guy? Okay, here he is. Now he's giving excuses. So if you watch the Vegas games, Ashton Genty, the 5th overall pick, he's been underwhelming fantasy-wise, underwhelming on the field. But they can't block for shit. He's being tackled in the backfield constantly. And then Chip Kelly comes out. It's like, oh, well, the defenses are ahead of the offenses early in the season. But what does that have anything to do with him being tackled in the backfield? Like, it's not even like you can't even get him to the line of scrimmage, much less, you're getting some yards. I don't know. I mean, that was just a dumb call. Excuses. The Raiders are already making excuses why they suck. It's only September. But they're pretty healthy outside of Michael Mayer, who has a concussion. Meanwhile, the Bears are dealing with injuries. They got TJ Edwards, linebacker, Grady Jarrett, defensive end, and Darnell Wright, the starting right tackle, all out, all starters. And they have 3 more guys questionable, including their first-round pick, Loveland, and Kyle Gordon, the defensive back, and DeAndre Swift, who I care less if Swift plays. He's a non-factor, in my opinion. But the other guys are big deals. They broke out against, a bad Cowboys defense. And they got some turnovers. The Cowboys like to turn the ball over, cook up them turnovers. 6.8 yards per play. Ben Johnson, maybe this is working. Is this a sign? Or was it just Dallas' bad defense? Well, Vegas is a bad defense too. So, maybe they can carry this forward. Dallas had 396 yards, but again, they turned the ball over 4 times. They were a little bit fat and happy for my liking, Chicago. But, Ben Johnson's trying to play the tough guy. He's trying to shut all that stuff down. He's trying to hold his players accountable. So, I want to bet Chicago here. Because I think Chicago's better than Vegas, and I've been a believer since the beginning in this team. But they're hurt. Vegas isn't. But but what I think maybe we can get, because most of the injuries are on the defensive side of the football. Maybe we can. I'm gonna play Chicago team total over 23, and it should be around 23.5, 24.5, around there. I didn't look it up. I just thought of this before I came on, but yeah, Bears team total over for me. And now I know it's a little late, but here it is. What everyone's waiting for. Johnny's prop report. He couldn't make it again today. He's in the chat, or he was in the chat earlier talking about my hat. So. The prop report, and it is as follows. Jordan. So I mentioned earlier the action for the early game. You got to get some action for the early game, right? The 9:30. I'm going to get up, or 6:30 on the West Coast. I'm going to get up and watch that. Well, Don't worry, we got 2 Jordan Mason props. Anytime touchdown, minus 120, and over 81.5 rushing yards. Johnny likes both of those. I could see it. Aaron Jones is hurt. They're running the ball through Mason. He was pretty good last week. The Steelers defense is, last week was fumbleitis for the running backs, but the Jets were able to run on them. So, it should be a good bet there. Rome Odunze, we have 2 Bears. Rome Odunze over 62.5 receiving yards, and Caleb Williams over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Johnny showing the Bears, so I agree. I think, like I said, I don't know if the Bears are going to win because they're the Bears, but they should be able to score on this Vegas. I think the offense is taking steps forward, so that's why I like the team total, and I like these props. Caleb Williams and Rome Odunze are starting to build a pretty good connection. So, Quinshawn Judkins, say that 10 times fast, over 57.5 rush yards. Yeah, this one's a little bit out there, but he's been very good. They're giving him the ball. Cleveland's defense lets him hang around, so they should still be running late in the game. So it's a low number in my opinion. It's Johnny picking off low numbers. And Jordan Love over 1.5 passing touchdowns, and I'll talk about that right now because now we move into the main event: Sunday Night Football, Green Bay Packers, Dallas Cowboys. Mike is back. All the hype, all the pomp and circumstance, and I think Green Bay is just going to blow the doors off of them. I laid the chalk with Green Bay, minus 6.5. There's no CeeDee Lamb, and there's no Tyler Booker, and Green Bay's down a couple linemen, Zach Tom and Anthony Benson, and even Aaron Banks is doubtful. So they would be down 3 linemen, but excuse me, who on the Cowboys is getting pressure right now? Marshawn Nealand, that guy looks like he might be a bust. It's rough. Now, the Cowboys are getting Deron Bland and Trevon Diggs back. And Dak's talking about, I've avoided Parsons in practice. Yeah, well, Parsons is out to kill somebody, okay? He's pissed off. Jerry Jones pissed him off. Jerry Jones going to pay the piper in this game. The Packers, they were flat last week. I think they were looking ahead a little bit. They were looking ahead to this game. Like that was a non-conference game against a team that they thought wasn't very good. Meanwhile, the Browns might be okay. So they caught him, and they the 55-yard field goal. The Browns don't usually make those, so. And it knocked a bunch of people out of Survivor, which is good news for me. But yeah, the Packers are an elite team. That was a flat spot. They were looking ahead to Dallas. They want to win this one for Mike. And I think they're going to bury the Cowboys. Give me the Packers minus 6.5. I know it's just the squarest bet out there. It's not some cute sharp bet that I like to give out. This is square, as square can be. But I mean, come on, no CeeDee Lamb. Like it's George Pickens and who? Jake Ferguson's going to have 14 targets here. Come on, give me a break. All right. Monday night. Oh, we got 2 Monday nighters, and they're both what are they called? Sleep aids. Sleep aids. We're gonna get some nice sleep on Thursday night, or not Thursday, Monday night football. All right. Jets, Dolphins. Dolphins 2.5 3-point favorites, the total 44.5. The Jets covered on a blocked field goal that was returned, and they still lost the game, even though that gave them the lead late in the game. And Tampa was able to go down the field, kick the game-winning field goal, saving my Survivor ticket. And Aaron Glenn after the field goes up there high stepping like they just won the game, and they end up losing. They cover the spread. Maybe he had Jets plus 6.5. But there's a little bit of inexperience and a little bit of I'm getting inexperienced vibes, in over their head vibes from the Jets coaching staff here. We had 7 penalties for 81 yards. We talked about the high step today. The defensive coordinator Steve Wilks, another guy like Steve Wilks being hired is another red flag in my opinion, because what has Steve Wilks done good in the NFL? But here he is today talking about Baker Mayfield. You're not like, why you Baker Mayfield? Why are you talking about, you're playing the Dolphins? Why are you talking about Baker Mayfield today? You played him last week. You know what I mean? Like, he's talking about the Carolina days of some sort of quibble or something. Like it's what is it? Friday, and you're still thinking about last week and the and like the drama. I don't know. I didn't like that. I kind of think there's a little bit of coaching dysfunction here with the Jets. Justin Fields, I think he's going to play. He has to clear the concussion protocol, but is there much of a downgrade? I don't know. Sauce Gardner was, I saw Sauce Gardner questionable on the ESPN depth chart. I didn't see him on the injury report, though, so that was interesting. Now, the Dolphins, at the beginning of the season, everyone said they were this dysfunctional team. They're going to be awful. The coach is getting fired. Well, it looks like first coach fired might be in Tennessee. And they put up a good fight. 2 weeks in a row. Yeah, they got blown up by the Colts week 1. Everyone's like, "Oh, the Dolphins are done." But now you look at the Colts now, and now it's not Dolphins are done. It's all the Colts are real. Then they go and they play New England, and if Devon Achane doesn't step into balance, they probably win that game. And then last week they put a pretty good fight against the Bills on a road team on Thursday. I know it's early in the season, but still, that was a pretty good effort. I was shocked at how well the Dolphins offense looked last week. And then you got defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver. He says, we got to solve our problems with violence. You know what I mean? And he brings up his second child being born and how you have to, settle the chaos. Maybe he's trying to, maybe he thinks McDaniel's getting fired soon. He's trying to be the head coach. But, I think it's a pretty good thing to rile the guys up because, the offense is kind of working and defense is a lot of effort. And then you got Tua being called up by Cam Newton. And Tua's responding. So and they're playing the Jets at home, a team they beat time and time again. Storm Duck, questionable. He might return. That I know, Storm Duck, is big cornerback one Storm Duck, but he's better than what they have right now. This kind of smells like a rally the troops spot for Miami. I can't believe I'm saying this. I was going into this game when I started to research this game, like, I'm going to be on the Jets here. There's threes popping. I'm like, the Dolphins are, they're the Dolphins. But you look to the numbers. The offense is starting to click. The Jets, their coaches are, talking about last week, high stepping before the game's over. And Darren Waller might play in this game, so that could add a little wrinkle to the Dolphins offense. I might look like a fool. I bet Miami -2.5. The threes are popping up. The Sharps like it. The Sharps, what do the Sharps follow? They follow the numbers. The numbers say Miami's better than New York. The eye test says Miami's better than New York. Outside of week 1. And they're at home. I know it's a night game, so the heat's not going to be as much of a factor, but it kind of feels like Miami's being called out by their coaches, by the the media's kind of gone away from them a little bit, thank goodness. But being called up by Cam Newton, like come on, Cam Newton can barely throw a pass right now. So yeah, I'm on Miami -2.5 here, and it's moving fast. So if you want to tail, which I understand if you don't, because it's. I didn't think I'd be betting them, but sometimes just the way the cookie crumbles. Dolphins -2.5 official play here, full unit. Broncos, Bengals. I mean, the Bengals got blown out. It was kind of the same thing as the Seattle game, Seattle Saints game, where the Vikings bum rushed him earlier. Isaiah Rodgers had 2 defensive touchdowns. Carson Wentz had 2 touchdown passes. It was a no-show. The Bengals no-showed that game. They weren't in it from the beginning, and they packed it in early. Injuries is just Fant and Shamar Stewart. And then Cam Taylor-Britt's questionable. He might play. That matters. Quarterback of the Bengals. The Broncos are fully healthy, except for except for somebody. Well, they're almost fully healthy anyway. Surtain is back, and they got the Broncos on paper. They got this great offensive line, this great defensive line. They have Patrick Surtain back there. You got some weapons. Cortland Sutton, Evan Ingram. and they don't look that good. Like Bo Nix and Sean Payton, kind of been stinky. They outgained the Chargers 5.5 to 4.7 yards per play, but Nix was only 14 for 25 and one touchdown. Two for 13 on third down. They only had 9 first downs to the Chargers 29. I'm not laying 7.5 points with this team. Are you crazy? But I don't want the Bengals. What I might do is, see, here's the thing. I kind of, maybe I take it back. I kind of do want the Bengals. I want to take the 7.5 because I think Denver's a little bit fraudulent. But the offensive line for the Bengals might get torched here by Benito what's the Zach? Oh, what's his name? Oh, I can't think of his name. But the defensive line for the Denver Broncos. That's the concern here because that's a mismatch. The Bengals D line is pretty good, but the mismatch is the Denver defensive line against the Bengals offensive line is a little bit of a mismatch. It's kind of like the Houston Tennessee game. Like Houston shouldn't be laying 7, but that matchup there could turn the game around. You get a fumble at Jake Browning, What I might do is I might pull one out of the old Johnny the prop man hat. I might play some T. Higgins props. We'll see how I do. It's a Monday game. But it's Bengals are passing. It's probably just, if I like the bet, I'll probably just play T. Higgins props because Chase is going to be covered by Surtain. And we saw what T. Higgins did last year. He cooked the CB2. All right. We made it through. A little ill, a little under the weather, but we made it through. Instagram, of course, Pieguy9871. That's also my YouTube. Best bets. So it was going to be the Falcons, but the line moved because I really like that spot there. I know what my best bet is. Green Bay -6.5. Don't think too hard. This is an elite team. It's going to be focused. And one player wants to really make a statement. I think that the team will rally around that. And the injuries for Green Bay, the Cowboys don't really have the players to take advantage of offensive line injuries. So that's where I really think that, the Green Bay can get their bread and butter. They had a bad game against a really good defense. Now you get to play the Dallas Cowboys defense, who the Bears scored 31 against. Without CeeDee Lamb, so I don't think they're going to keep up either. So yeah, give me the Packers -6.5. Pie Guy Pickens best bet. Let's get 2 in a row here. Let's get a winning week. We need to get on it where we're getting better and better and better every week, and we need that winning week this week. So let's get it. We had the best bet winner last week. We're coming off a 2-3 game win streak if you count last night. My small play. So yeah, give me the Packers -6.5. Let's go Pack. Thank you everybody for watching, commenting, and we'll see you next week for should be about the same time. I'll keep posted, but it should be good next week, 6 o'clock. Next week for another edition of Pie Guys Pick'em. Goodbye.